Welcome to Studio A3R, where we feature people and ideas that help us deepen our connection to ourselves, the community, and the world around us. I am your host, Jennifer Sertl. In the time of constant change, I believe that our greatest advantage lies within how we connect with others and make thoughtful decisions that shape a meaningful future. This program, Studio A3R, is here to help you with insights that foster clarity, connection, and purpose. One of the most powerful tools for navigating complexity and connecting with what truly matters is music. Music has a unique ability to cut through the noise, offering us a universal language that brings people together and helps us process change and emotion. Here in Rochester, the Rochester Philharmonic plays a vital role in fostering that connection, enriching our community with world-class performances and cultural programs. And as our region grows through initiatives like you may have heard about the federal funding that's come to the city for the technology I-Corps between Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo. But along with that opportunity brings jobs, and those jobs bring families. And many of those families are from outside of the region. And we need to do, for all of us that are here, we need to do a way of opening our arms to ensure people feel welcome and are part of our culture and our new history. And the RPO is doing that exact thing. The RPO is helping us open our arms to diverse stories, traditions, and perspectives. So today's a very special program. I'm excited to welcome Dorian Delfs, the Development Officer at the Rochester Philharmonic, to share more about the RPO's commitment to our community. And the other guest is actually from San Francisco, Maestro Vinay Parameswaran, who will illuminate the transformative power of music through his interpretation of Elgar's Enigma. We're going to hear more about that in just a minute, but I get so excited that sometimes I can't even speak straight. So with that, let me just tell you a little bit about Dorian Delfs, the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra's Development Officer. He brings a unique perspective shaped by a life immersed in music and extensive travel. He's lived in Switzerland, Germany, Milwaukee, St. Paul, Petersburg, and Honolulu. And for many of you, you know, I have a daughter who lives in Maui. So he's witnessed firsthand how the orchestra serves as a cultural anchor in diverse communities. And through these experiences, Dorian has developed a deep appreciation for the vital role that orchestras play in fostering connection and resilience, especially in challenging times. Now he's channeling this understanding to his work here in Rochester at the RPO, strengthening our bond with the Rochester community, and it's enhancing cultural impact. So thank you for being here on the program today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's really fantastic to have this opportunity. And I couldn't have said that intro better myself. Thanks so much. You mentioned those families that are coming to Rochester. So I am one of those families. So I've been here a little under 2 years with the RPO, and my wife and I decided to make the move after seeing how great Rochester was in the orchestra. And we're fully invested in the community here, and we've started a family. And so it's such a pleasure.
Oh, it's so exciting that our arms are open to you and you're opening arms to others. So you have such a unique background, and your travels have given you such a unique perspective on the orchestra in these diverse communities. What lessons have you learned about the role that music plays in building community?
Absolutely. So for me, it's professional now, but it's always been personal. I mean, traveling all around, you're engaging with new people and new places and new experiences all the time. And for me, really, a constant has been music and the orchestra. And it's really always been a home. So it's intensely personal. And the thing about music in general, it's something, you often hear that music is universal, right? It's something that really cuts through everything that we're doing and gives you this transcendent experience that everyone can participate in, in their own way, in their, whatever music they prefer. But really, when you're in an orchestra environment, when you're a musician, when you're working for an orchestra, when you're an audience member, a patron or donor, you're participating in that. And that's that shared passion kind of makes it feel like one big family, a home. So in moving all around, having that constant, the orchestra has always felt like the real home to me, with people who, they might be from all around the world, but they all have this singular passion and mission, which is really exciting. So, another fantastic thing about the RPO is we've always been very community focused, very embedded in Rochester, which is amazing. And it's not something we had to ever bolt on or tack on for PR points or anything like that. We're over 100 years old now. We celebrated our centennial season last year, which was an absolute blockbuster. But, we started out as a community orchestra in 1922. Now, we've evolved from there, but from those humble origins, we've grown and we've learned, and Rochester has grown and, changed alongside the orchestra. And really, our job is to spread the gift of music and do it in a way so that everyone can, participate and be included in that and enjoy that. And, I'm really proud to work here. And, there's a lot of, so some specific examples of this, maybe some anecdotes. So in my job here at the RPO, in development, you meet a lot of people, which is the best part about the job, but you hear a lot of stories along the way. So, I've talked to people who, have been going to the RPO for 50 years and they're absolutely loving it. And, that was their one reprieve, busy with their career, but you make time with the spouse to go every Sunday or every Thursday and, cut through all the noise. And, people who, have gone to the Nutcracker with their children. I know the children are all grown up, but they still keep that tradition going. Or, I talked to some doctors who said that was really and nurses too, that was their lifeline through med school was, it's nose down, nose to the grindstone, and incredibly intense, but the RPO was their reprieve, again, a way to break. And so for binding a community together, it's really everyone has that passion and everyone with that passion can be here and enjoy that together. And we are just laser focused on spreading that.
We wanted to actually have this conversation for a very special performance that's coming up on Saturday. So what I would love is for you to share some highlights of the upcoming performances and details of the VIP event, and really how this weekend aligns with RPO's mission to connect with the community.
Sure. So our VIP in this case, it's open to everyone. But our VIP is really Vinay Parameswaran. And, this is his second time. He's returning to the RPO for this amazing Elgar's Enigma performance, which, I just talked to some colleagues who came from a rehearsal and they're absolutely gushing. So run, don't walk to the box office. Pick your tickets up now. It's the 23rd and the 25th. So, Thursday and Saturday. So we would love everyone to come. But so the event that we're having is, first of all, and most importantly, to celebrate Vinay, the maestro returning, and who's absolutely fantastic. I met him backstage, wonderful man. And we had some board members who, one of whom joined right around the time when I first started at the RPO. Her name is Sujatha Ramanujan, and she has been an absolutely amazing board member. But more importantly, one of her first missives for us, the first thing she said is, there's an amazing opportunity with Rochester's Indian community, and we need to reach out. We need to do things together. We need to really include everyone in Rochester in this equation. So, but that's we do our best to always do that, and saying that and doing that is a whole different thing. We don't keep an extensive list of people. We can see ticket holders and things, but it's really a challenge to engage with an entire community like that. So Sujatha led the charge, and another board member who has been wonderfully involved, Allison Hiranandani. And together they reached out. They went into the communities, through WhatsApp groups, through various things, various organizations like the Indian community center that they participated, or the Hindu temple, or just people they know, and share the news with everybody so that we could make an event like that happen, make a space where, and everyone is invited to this. Tickets are online, but where everyone can come and enjoy. And that's really part of the RPO's mission, which is to be everywhere and everywhere and everything for everyone as much as we can. Because when you come into the hall, every performance is the opportunity for a life-changing experience. And as someone who works here but also goes to the concerts, I think if the hall isn't full, that's 300 people who missed out on this mind-blowing experience. And but it's really important also to engage particularly with not who the orchestras can often have an air of being elite, of being really closed off. But anyone who's engaged in the orchestra, they really want to share this music, and music of all different types of backgrounds. So we have been really stepping up our game with outreach, really stepping up our game in terms of soloists and composers who engage with from all different backgrounds. That's actually an exciting, flagship opportunity to have with something called Voices of Today that we're rolling out now with living composers commissioned by the RPO for a record deal. But really the focus of this Saturday is to celebrate Vinay coming back to the RPO and to have this opportunity to engage with the Indian community and anyone else who is interested. So we're very grateful for that opportunity.
That's really great. I just want to remind everyone that Rochester is a sanctuary city. And for those of you, because again, I'm from Denver, I'm from out of state. The history that's here with the Susan B. Anthony House, the Frederick Douglass, and the North Star that was here. Rochester is one of the biggest small cities that really is about families. It's about technology, and it's about culture. I am so grateful that you were able to coordinate to have Maestro Vinay Parameswaran here on our podcast. And so before I actually bring him on, I want to share to the audience here at Studio A3R that he is an internationally recognized conductor known for his energetic presence and imaginative programming. He recently completed 5 seasons with the Cleveland Orchestra, where he led numerous performances and an acclaimed European tour with the Youth Orchestra. He's debuted with major orchestras like the Pittsburgh Symphony and the Detroit Symphony, and conducted operas such as the Magic Flute with the Curtis Opera Theater. He's a recipient of the Solti Foundation Career Assistance Award, and he's a graduate of Brown University and the Curtis Institute of Music. Thank you for being on the Studio A3R program. It's an honor to have you. I'm going to start with a question from my friend Laura. Indian classical music is celebrated for its rich textures and intricate rhythms. Growing up in a household with that deep appreciation for music, how has this cultural connection influenced your approach to conducting and your interpretation of the many diverse musical traditions that you are part of?
Yeah, I come from a family of music lovers. There was music being played like all the time in the house growing up. A lot of it was Indian classical music. A lot of it was songs from films that my parents loved. But I remember as a kid, growing up near San Francisco, there were so many concerts, a huge Indian community out there. And so many concerts of Indian classical artists that I got to go see. I mean, Zakir Hussain just passed. I remember seeing him perform live in San Francisco. And, I'm certainly not an expert on Indian classical music. Like, I have no training in it. But I think just growing up with that, it certainly made me open-minded to appreciate many different types of music. Indian classical music as you mentioned, can be quite complex in terms of rhythm. And I'm an old percussionist. I think there was certainly a tie-in between hearing a lot of that music growing up and my love of playing drums, playing percussion in the orchestra. I just kind of grew up listening to this music that was so full of life rhythmically. So I always kind of draw upon that, like my kind of obsession with rhythm and love of things that are rhythmic. I think I've certainly kept that in my conducting. But I think the main thing is just hearing that growing up, but also growing up in the States, I just appreciate so many different types of music, and was always open minded to hearing different things. And I think it's really important as an artist. Like you have to, you can't just be happy conducting the same 5 pieces, right? You have to be flexible and curious. You can never lose your curiosity as a musician. So I think that curiosity was ingrained at a young age, just hearing music from my parents' homeland all the time growing up.
Wow. I see like you've done Mozart, Wagner, Verdi, Strauss, and Philip Glass and Anna Klein. Like there's a lot of range in there. How is it that you navigate the balance between honoring like a historical tradition and then also making sure that it's contemporary enough to engage, this next generation of listeners?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we play this music is that it's timeless. Like a piece like the Elgar Enigma variations, like even though it was written in 1899, it can speak to us today in 2025. And I think, obviously, I think you have to be aware of tradition, of course, but you really have to be genuine in your approach in terms of how you study and how you digest and internalize all this music. It's not an honest way to just copy what was done previously. You have to really try to draw your own conclusions and really try to get into the details and nitty-gritty and really try to figure out the composer's intent. And that can be different for everyone. That's what makes going to the orchestra such a treat, because a piece that's familiar, you can hear it played in like a million different ways. Because for a point, notes on a page is just notation. Like we still have to kind of think about so many other things, like what's the character, what kind of sound do we want, how do we play this short note, for example. There's so many ways to answer those questions, and so I always try to just, even if it's a piece that's familiar, you have to really try to approach it as if it's totally new to you. And I think that's like a way to keep your music making genuine and fresh and honest. And I think orchestras appreciate that. I think they can tell, they are great radar detectors, orchestras. They can tell when you are just trying, if someone is just maybe copying something, or they can tell it what you are wanting is coming from a real place, a place of like deep study and depth and respect. So that's always been my approach, is you really try to just at some point put aside all the baggage of a certain piece and really try to just view in the score, and I'm trying to kind of get to the essence of this piece.
Yeah, I love there's almost like this immersion that happens.
Yeah.
Love that you're talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the studying is like, yeah, there's the time where I'm like at my desk or at the piano, but like, I mean, even like just doing life things, like when I take my dogs out or like when I'm at the gym, like there might be something that comes to my head, like, oh, that, like, I feel like you really are living, like when people say that, that's what it is. You really are living with this music, like all the time when you have something coming up.
Yeah, part of what I hear you doing is actually making music accessible. And then you as a maestro, the way that you're describing your life actually makes it very accessible, which I think it's just beautiful to see that humility as well. From training with Otto Werner Müller, what is one of the most significant things that you learned from him?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I could spend hours talking about Maestro Müller, because like I think about the lessons he taught every day. I was lucky enough to be in his last studio, actually. And so even though he was in his 80s, he was still an incredible teacher. The first thing that comes to mind about him is his sense of sound. He had a really defined concept of what he wanted the orchestra to sound like. And he had a power where he could go to any orchestra and change their sound. I mean, that is like a real gift. Someone can do that. But he just had a way of doing it and communicating it. And the other thing I really loved about him, and this is like kind of more practical in terms of my day-to-day life as a conductor, but what he cared the most about was how we studied and how we studied a score. I think he cared less about us on the podium than the process getting to that point on the podium. He really cared about that. He was absolutely militant that we knew every detail, that we had really done our homework and studied hard and knew every little nuance. And that matters, because when you get in front of great orchestras like the RPO here, I mean, a piece like the Elgar, they've played many times. And so you you can't be in front of them unless you've really done your homework. And that's what he really imparted to us. I remember him telling us, I want you to be your own teacher by the time you're done here, because when you go out into the profession, you have no time to learn all this music. And programs come at you really fast, but he gave us a system to study really well. And I think that's like the best lesson that I got from him. He was also, he had a great sense of humor too. Like just some of the things he would say in my lessons. He was he had a way of like getting his message across, but he could also be really funny. And he was such an inspiration for me. And I think his legacy as a teacher, you could tell because when I travel around and meet and see people I went to school with, or other people who went to Curtis or Juilliard or Yale, most of them will say, I learned more in Mueller's lab orchestra than I did from my teacher. He just was so giving with his knowledge and with his time to all of us.
I know it's kind of out of the box, but I'm thinking of Pele, and one of my favorite quotes from him was that everything is practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Loving that. So Elgar's Enigma it was new to me. So like for those in Studio A3R who are not familiar, Elgar was a British composer, and he created Enigma variations as a celebrated masterpiece during the late Romantic music in 1899. And the work features the noble theme followed by 14 variations, each depicting a close friend, a family member, or an acquaintance of the composer through vivid musical portraits. It's almost like a love letter to his community. It seems to be a very deeply personal program. So my question to you is, how do you connect with these characters and bring their stories to life for our audience?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the challenge of doing the Enigma variations, is you have to really try to understand the quirks and the character of all these people. What I love about this piece so much is I think it's one of the most sincere pieces ever written. You can tell that there's real affection from the composer to all these folks that he decides to write variations for, and some of that is just through a lot of the humor and charm that's in this music. So many instances where it's just kind of light and easygoing, and just like you can tell that it's like a fond memory that he's recalling. But I think the nice thing is actually Elgar gave us a lot of hints not in terms of what the Enigma is. None of us, that's still a question that hasn't been answered, but he gave us a lot of hints as to who these folks were and what he was trying to capture in these variations. So, for example, the first variation is dedicated to his wife, and he writes something about, her, at times, her romantic but also delicate personality. Or one variation is about a friend of his who could just kind of oscillate from a very serious demeanor to very lighthearted, and you hear that in the music. And then there's also some memories. There's one friend who tried to play the piano but was a terrible pianist, and there's a variation to get dedicated to the frustration of that. So it's full of charm and great humor, but also beautiful melodies. And I think that's what makes this piece just such a masterpiece and so lasting in our repertoire.
Are there, if I think about music helping people navigate complexity, and I certainly feel like this is kind of a complex time to be alive in general, just because of technology, evolution, AI, all that jazz. So from your perspective, what do you think is so important about music as an expression of today's world?
I just feel like more and more we're losing human connection. I mean, I don't know if you feel that way, Jennifer. It just feels like just this type of contact that we're having, it's becoming a rarity, I feel, in some ways. And but music really has that power to bring people together. I mean, because making music is all about community, and it's about respect, and it's about accommodating, and it's about listening to others. And we've devolved into a world right now where a lot of those values are not present, I feel. So I think there's great solace in playing this music at this time, especially the Enigma variations, actually, because it's so much about the little things in the world that bring joy. I feel like that's a lot of this piece. And I think we could use a lot of that right now just with how tumultuous things are all over the world.
Yeah, I love the idea that this is a moment of joy. I actually have a girlfriend named Andrea Learned who actually got a tattoo this year. Actually, she got it on Thanksgiving, and the tattoo says "Joy is an act of resistance." Anyway, so I love that, and I like it. Shout out to Andrea, which is great. You're you're buoyant, like your energy is buoyant. Your picture, man. So you're very involved in youth programs, and you're a mentor for the next generation. What is I ask you about what you had learned from one of your mentors. What do you hope that one of your students says that they learned from you?
Oh, wow. I mean, when I was in Cleveland, my previous full-time job was with the Cleveland Orchestra, and I was so lucky to be the director of the youth orchestra there. And that's an exceptional youth orchestra. There are alums of that orchestra who play in the Cleveland Orchestra. There are some that I've seen professionally, which makes me feel old, I think, now that they're out of school and working full-time. But I mean, one thing that I was always told as a youngster in youth orchestra was the most important thing is to be a good colleague. I mean, that was like the biggest lesson that was imparted to me, because our industry is so tiny. Everyone knows everyone. And, I think you really are building your reputation when you're in high school or in college, like if you're going into music. And it's amazing. Even if I have not met someone in the field, I know someone who knows that person, like invariably. This is such a tight-knit field. So that, but also, I think it's important. And I remember being told this by a lot of my teachers, you should always try to remember, like, when you experienced a lot of these masterworks for the first time and how that made you feel. Because once this becomes your profession, you can so easily have the frustrations of any type of job, right? But it's so important to, like, even though we might play the Beethoven Fifth Symphony many times here, what was it like when you heard bum 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 for the first time, and that impact that it had on you? And I think I hope that generations to come never forget that if they go into this as a profession, that there's always going to be someone in the audience who's hearing this for the first time and trying to remember, like, how are they experiencing this? It's the same as we did when we heard it for the first time. So I think that mindset is really important, because we really have an ability to grab people through this music, if they're new to it. And I think we always have to remember that, as performers.
You've been listening to Dorian Delfs, Development Director, and guest conductor Maestro Vinay Parameswaran from the Rochester Philharmonic. I'm so grateful for your time. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. A lot of fun.
For those of you in Rochester, I look forward to seeing you this Saturday at the performance and the VIP event hosted by my friends Sujatha Ramanujan and Ali Hirnandani. A heartfelt thank you to my producer, Scott Fitzgerald at Rockvox Studio. This program is sponsored by Marl Accelerator, an early stage accelerator fund for startups developing deep tech products and services for enterprise customers using 5G technology. Marl continues to foster a vibrant community of investors, founders, and corporate venture teams in sectors such as mobility, AR/VR, autonomous, robotics, and logistics. Their ecosystems include 60 corporate partners, 150 follow-on VC partners, and 80 industry mentors. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible organizations that fuel my life and inspire my work. That is Circle Optics, Say Hi, and India Osborne. As we navigate complexity, remember the antidote to chaos is connection. Thank you for tuning in. Seek connection. I am your host, Jennifer Sertl, signing out.